Hello everybody and welcome to a brand new video. Today I'm going to be talking about filmmaking and what is filmmaking and just some tips and tricks that you can learn today. So without further say, let's get right into this. With number one, what is a film? So the film is the process of telling a story with pictures that you put into motion. It started in the 1890s when Thomas Edison's company called Edison Studio made the first film with a motion picture camera. Filmmaking is basically script writing, shooting, editing, and the distribution of the film. Now the types of films. So there are three types of films. There is, for example, the feature film, which is a film that is longer than 40 minutes. Then we have the short film, which is obviously shorter than 40 minutes. And then we have the documentary film, which basically doesn't really have a story, but is more for educational purposes. Now I'm going to talk about the 5 stages that go into making a film. So the first one is the development. This is where you turn an idea into a story. And that story needs to have a beginning, a middle, and an end. This is also where you start to write your script that you will use later in the movie making process. The next stage is the pre-production. This is one of the most important stages in the filmmaking stages because this is where you have the location, everything that you will see in the movie. You have to plan it out now because after you won't have enough time to do it, or you're maybe going to forget it. So now is the time to make all these decisions. So this is where you finish the script and make kind of like details. So you finesse the script, you make a storyboard, and you scout for locations to find out where you can shoot, what location suits your film best, and of course if you're actually allowed to film in that location. If not, you have to get a permit or you have to look for another location. And the last thing is, of course, casting actors and crew members, which is basically you need 5 actors, you need 1 cameraman, you need 1 director, you need 1 sound engineer, you need 2 light engineers, you need every single crew member. You have to know now if it's going to work out with that. The next stage is the production. This is where you film and this is where everything goes into action. So before you leave for the shoot, you want to make sure that you take your script and your storyboard with you so that you don't lose track of your film. Then of course you want to check that there's not too much background noise and that the sound is okay, because if it's too bright then it won't be good, and if it's too dark it won't be good either. You want to look for a light that suits your film in a way. So now you're at the shoot, so you have to film every single scene, but make sure you film the same scene from different angles so that you have more choice and variety in your scenes. And make sure to film all the scenes that are at one location before changing location so that you don't have to go back to that location later, and it will change maybe the looks so it won't really look that realistic. And of course the most important thing is film more footage than you need, because 5 minutes of film will convert to 1 minute in your film. So if you want to have a long film, make sure you film a lot of footage, because otherwise you won't have enough footage. Then we have a very important step also, which is the post-production. So this is where you do the editing, the color correcting, and any minor details that have to be corrected. So you begin with making a rough cut of a film, which is basically you edit everything, but not very precisely. You just do it really roughly. That's why it's called a rough cut. You, for example, trim the videos and put them in the right order. And then you do the first private screening, which is basically where you show all the crew members and actors how the film will look at the end, which is obviously not going to look like that because there are going to be many changes. So you want to ask the crew members and actors for some advice and some feedback. Then after that you use that feedback and advice and edit the film and do some color correction on every single clip, which means if, for example, this clip is kind of too warm, then you want to make it cold. Or if it's too cold, you want to make it warm. If it's too bright, you want to make it dark. So you want to make sure that every single clip gets the right tone that it has to have. Then of course you add the video effects, for example an explosion or a lens flare, whatever you want to add, you have to add it now, because after that you won't be able to take the movie down from Netflix and then change that. And of course you add the sound effects, for example the background noise like birds, or if you want people to think that you're in a big city, then you can make cars or something that will make the viewer think that it's actually in a big city and that they will feel better in that environment. So when you did all that editing, you want to do a second private screening where you ask for feedback and of course advice again. You edit the minor details from that film that you showed them, and then you do the final private screening. This is the most exciting part because this is kind of like the premiere, but only to the crew members and the actors. And now the final stage, this is the distribution. This is where the film goes online, on DVD, on Blu-ray, into the movie theaters. This is where the people on the whole globe will be able to watch your movie. But if you want the movie to be successful, you also have to promote it. For example, you want to do a trailer first so that people will be hyped about it, that it will come. You want to go on social media, make press interviews. You want to promote your film as much as you can so that the people will want to watch your movie when it comes out. Now I'm going to talk about independent filmmaking, aka indie filmmaking. Indie filmmaking is basically where you make a film without having a big production company behind it. For example, 20th Century Fox. So the biggest problem here is you don't have a big budget because there's no company that's going to promote your film and pay for the film, so you will have to pay everything yourself. So most of the independent films are filmed by friends that want to go together and make a film, but some people also do it professionally. For example, that is what I want to do when I am older. I want to make independent films with, for example, like people that I will just meet somewhere, and then I'll say, hey, do you want to do a film? So that's basically how they make these films. In case you didn't know, the first Terminator movie in 1989 was actually an independent film with Arnold Schwarzenegger. Maybe you'll think that it's an expensive movie because there's a famous actor, Arnold Schwarzenegger, but he wasn't really known as an actor back then. So these are the positions in indie filmmaking. There are of course much more positions, but these are the main positions. The first one is of course director, who is the guy that is kind of like the boss of the shoot and says who has to do what and how the camera has to go from there to there. But there's also a director of photography who is only for the camera. So this director of photography maybe is the cameraman, which is the second position, who is basically one of the most important people because he is the guy who operates the camera, or girl, who operates the camera, and that is the most important thing in a film. Then we have the sound engineer, which is basically the guy who holds the microphone that you sometimes see in the behind the scenes or even on live TV, or the guy that makes the sound and makes sure that the sound is not too high or not too low or not too loud. Make sure that the sound is nice and crispy. Then of course you have actor, because without an actor you can't make a good film unless it is a documentary film. Then of course we have the editor. This is a very important role because he is the guy who edits the film and then makes everything in post-production. He is very, very important. Now this is the main equipment that people will use on an independent film shoot. The first thing is of course a camera, because without cameras you won't have a film. Then we have microphone, which is this over here, and without a microphone you won't have good sound, and if you don't have good sound that will be very, very bad. Then we have the camera support. You can use a tripod, a glide cam, a stabilizer. You can use anything that will make your footage more stable, because nothing is worse than shaky footage. Then we have lighting. For example, right now I'm using 2 film lights that are very, very bright and actually my room without these lights would be pitch black. So these are very, very important, because otherwise you won't really see anything, and the less light there is, the quality will go down. And of course the computer, because you have to edit your film on something. You can sometimes even do it on an iPhone, as I did last time. Go and check that video out, it will be up there. So guys, that's a wrap. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys next time. Peace.